My name is Daniel Carter, and this is the story of how everything was taken from me. It didn't happen all at once. That's the part people don't understand. They imagine betrayal as something loud, like a slammed door or a shouted confession, but mine came quietly, piece by piece, smile by smile, signature by signature. By the time I realized what they'd done, there was nothing left. I used to live in a quiet suburb outside Columbus, Ohio, the kind of place where kids ride bikes after dark and neighbors wave without knowing your name. I had a house with a wide front porch, a golden retriever named Miles, and a wife I thought I trusted more than anyone. Her name was Emily. We'd been married for 9 years. 9 years of building something I thought was real. I worked as a financial analyst at a mid-sized firm downtown. It wasn't glamorous, but it was stable, predictable. I liked that. I believed in structure, in rules, in fairness. That belief cost me everything. It started with a promotion I didn't get. I trained the guy who got it, Mark Reynolds. He was younger, louder, always laughing too hard at the boss's jokes, the kind of guy who shakes your hand with both hands like he's selling you something. I didn't think much of it at the time. Office politics, I told myself. But then the late nights started. Emily said she was helping a friend, said she needed space, said I was too predictable. Funny word, predictable. It sounds safe until someone uses it like an insult. I ignored the signs, the extra time she spent on her phone, the way she'd turn her screen away when I walked in, the distance in her voice. I told myself marriages go through phases. I told myself love doesn't just disappear. I was wrong. The first real crack came on a Thursday. I remember because it was raining, heavy, relentless rain that blurred the highway into streaks of red and white. I left work early that day, had a headache, or maybe just a feeling I couldn't shake. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed a car I didn't recognize. Black sedan, tinted windows. My chest tightened. I walked up to the front door, my shoes crunching against the wet gravel, and for a moment, I hesitated. Something inside me already knew, but I opened the door anyway, and I heard them. Laughter. Soft. Intimate. Familiar. I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I just stood there in the hallway, listening as my life collapsed on the other side of a bedroom door. When I finally pushed it open, they didn't even look surprised. Emily just stared at me, calm, almost relieved. And Mark, he smiled. That was the moment something inside me broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly, like a thread snapping under tension. I was going to tell you, Emily said. Of course she was. They always say that. The next few weeks moved fast. Too fast. Papers were filed, accounts were frozen, and then the accusations came. That was the part I never saw coming. Suddenly, I wasn't just the husband who got cheated on. I was the problem. According to Emily, I was emotionally controlling. According to Mark, I had questionable financial behavior at work. Lies. Carefully crafted, strategically placed. By the time HR called me into that glass-walled office, they already had a file on me. Evidence. Emails I never wrote. Transactions I never approved. All traced back to my login, my access, my name. I remember sitting there, staring at the printed pages, feeling like I was reading someone else's life. This doesn't make any sense, I said. But it did, just not to me. They'd been planning it for months, maybe longer. Mark had access to internal systems. Emily had access to my personal accounts. Together, they built a version of me that was easy to destroy. I was terminated within the week. No severance, no recommendation. just a quiet escort out of the building like I was something shameful. The legal battle that followed wasn't a fight, it was an execution. Emily's lawyer painted me as unstable, irresponsible, dangerous even. She got the house, most of the savings, even Miles. I didn't fight hard enough. That's what people would say. But they didn't understand. I wasn't weak. I was broken. There's a difference. I moved into a small apartment off the highway. 1 bedroom, thin walls, the kind of place where you hear every argument, every television, every lonely silence. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months. I stopped answering calls, stopped checking emails, stopped caring. I'd sit by the window at night, watching cars pass by, wondering how everything could fall apart so completely, so perfectly. They didn't just take my job, they didn't just take my marriage, they took my identity, my reputation, my future, everything. And for a long time, I let them. But something changed the night I saw Mark on TV, local business news. There he was, smiling, confident, talking about his recent promotion and innovative financial strategies. Emily stood beside him, hand on his arm, wearing the same smile she used to give me. That's when it hit me. They didn't just destroy me, they replaced me, and they were proud of it. That night, I opened my laptop for the first time in weeks, and I started digging. You see, they underestimated one thing. They thought I was predictable, and they were right, but predictable doesn't mean powerless, it means patient. I knew the systems, the processes, the weak points. I knew how audits worked, how trails could be followed, and more importantly, how they could be hidden. If Mark framed me using my own access, then he made one critical mistake. He had to access it too. No one's perfect, not even him. It took weeks, then months, late nights, empty coffee cups, screens filled with numbers and logs and timestamps. At first, it was nothing. Then, a pattern. Small inconsistencies, logins at odd hours, transactions routed through layers of accounts that looked clean on the surface, but weren't. I didn't rush. That was the key. Revenge isn't about speed, it's about precision. I built a timeline, cross-referenced data, traced every digital footprint he thought he erased, and slowly, the truth started to take shape. Mark wasn't just framing me, he was stealing. A lot. And Emily? She knew. She had to. There were transfers into accounts under her name, offshore connections, shell companies. They weren't just betrayers, they were criminals. But exposing them wasn't enough. No, that would be too easy, too quick. I wanted them to feel what I felt, the confusion, the helplessness, the slow, suffocating realization that everything is slipping away and there's nothing you can do about it. So I waited. I gathered everything, every document, every log, every piece of evidence, and then I made a plan. Step 1 was simple: anonymous tip, internal audit division, nothing too obvious, just enough to raise a question, a doubt, and doubts spread. Within weeks, Mark's department was under review. He laughed it off at first. I saw it in an online interview. Routine procedure, he said, but his eyes, they weren't as confident anymore. Step 2 was Emily. I sent her a message from an anonymous account. Just one line. I know. No explanation, no details, just those 2 words. It's amazing what fear does to people. She started making mistakes, moving money, closing accounts, calling people she shouldn't have. Every move she made, I tracked. Every panic-driven decision made my case stronger. Step 3 was timing. I waited until everything was in place, until the investigation reached its peak, until they were both just starting to feel the pressure.
And then I delivered everything to the authorities, to the company's board,
to people who didn't care about office politics or personal stories. Only facts, only evidence. The fallout was immediate. Mark was arrested. Fraud, embezzlement, identity manipulation, the same lies he used on me came crashing down on him. Emily tried to run, but you can't outrun digital footprints, or paper trails, or guilt. She was charged as an accomplice. Their assets were frozen, accounts seized, the house gone. Everything they built on top of my destruction collapsed. I watched it all from a distance, quietly, patiently, just like they never expected. But I wasn't done, because revenge isn't just about taking back what was stolen. It's about balance, correction, closure. I filed a case: wrongful termination, defamation, emotional damages. This time, I had proof, real proof, not fabricated emails or twisted narratives. The truth, raw and undeniable. The court process took time, but this time, time was on my side. When the verdict came, it wasn't just in my favor, it was overwhelming. Compensation, public record clearance, formal apology from the company. My name restored. But the money, the house, the job, those weren't the real victory. The real victory was watching them sit in that courtroom, stripped of confidence, of control, of everything they thought they'd secured, feeling exactly what I felt: powerless, exposed, finished. I got Miles back. That was the first thing I did. Picked him up from a temporary shelter after everything was seized. He recognized me instantly. No hesitation, no doubt. Funny how loyalty works. I moved to a different town after that. Started fresh. New job, new routine, new life. But I didn't forget. I never will. Because what they taught me was something I can't unlearn. Trust isn't given, it's earned. And betrayal always comes with a price. They took everything from me: my home, my career, my identity, my peace. And in the end, I took it all back, twice as hard. And the best part? I never had to raise my voice. I never had to touch them. I just let the truth do what it always does: destroy everything built on lies. And as I walked out of that courtroom for the last time, I realized something that still gives me chills. They didn't lose because I was stronger. They lost because I was smarter. And this time, I was no longer predictable.